Okay guys, I'm racing through Central Park, trying to get from the west side to the east side to see my parents who are in town, and I won't be able to see them in the next 2 days with all the tennis, so this is my shot, and I wanted to do a nice run anyway to get some exercise. So I wanted to talk about climate. As you can see here in the park, it's a great place to talk about climate. It's very tricky. Weather, climate, that's the first thing I realized when I talked to a meteorologist a while, 10 years ago, when I was curious about speeds of tennis balls through the air in different weather conditions. It's tricky. I was trying to find, could you give me heat? Just tell me when it's hot, it's fast, when it's cold, it's slow. Or humidity, high humidity, slow, low humidity. It didn't work like that. And I didn't expect it to, since I was a physics major, I kind of know stuff doesn't work there's a lot of variables that go in. It's actually not complicated when you understand it. It can be very simple, but the big thing most people miss on all this stuff is just the multitude of variables that go into anything when you're talking the physical world we live in. So basically, the one thing that I learned that I still don't understand to a great degree, and I'd love to understand more in the future, is barometric pressure and how that affects the ball. In fact, a lot of times when there is humidity, I have mentioned how the extra moisture on the felt will actually help to slow the ball down when it's spinning, a moving ball. It's more than that. It's also the barometric pressure, but I just don't understand that to a great degree. I know that in Buenos Aires, I used to study that. I love that, and I would bring it up to the guy I would deal with on all this. And they have a high humidity there, but it's pretty quick weather. It's almost like and it's a weird mix of air. A lot of this too is about the air masses. And barometric pressure has a lot to do with air mass, and there's different movements of the air mass and how they, interact and all that. So Buenos Aires is actually quick in the weather, even though you'll see many times with high humidity. And it's not just about temperature, because other places will be slower with the same high temperature and high humidity. So it just isn't that simple. And it's just, I know a lot of what the different regions do tennis-wise just from watching a lot, and then of course dealing with this couple meteorologists. So for New York, for instance, the weather, if it stays like this, and it's supposed to in the beginning, it's going to be quick. And you may say, well, it's not as hot. True, but that very high heat humidity that was around last year is not conducive for fast tennis. Somewhat the ball and somewhat in the air. And I'm not going to go into the detail at the moment. But it's better if it's the sun shining is always great. Sun adds radiation to the air pressure inside the ball, inside the core, and that will always speed up the ball. So sometimes, like in New Zealand, in Auckland, they have that. This is a beautiful spot right here, by the way. But in Auckland, they'll have sometimes the temperature is not real hot. There's a nice little wind, a breeze, and it's not real dry, but sometimes it's not even dry at all. It's high humidity, but it's always fast there. It's a fast air. That's why they've had issues with the courts there, trying to figure it out and make it like the Australian Open, because Melbourne is different. And so Auckland's always a fast air, and it's something to do with the ocean current too. That's another thing that plays a part, the ocean current, the moving masses of air. But the ocean current comes up from Antarctica, the south, and goes right past Auckland. And anyways, it makes it quick there. So anyway, in New York today, if it stays in the 70s, that is fine. If the sun's shining and it's on even like 50% humidity, like today was 50% humidity, I'm telling you, it felt dry. It felt dry. It felt like it could be 30%, because other times it can be like 60, 70% here. And the other thing is, just to let you know, when I left, I was in the west side of Manhattan, and I just came into the park, and the feel of it is much more humid the minute you step in here, with all the trees and the vegetation. Again, so there's so many things that play a part. Just like the heat on a hard courts is much worse than when you're in clay courts or grass courts. It's a lot better. So, there's so many little things that play a part. So to wrap this up, I just want to say this. Temperatures in the 70s or low 80s, and a lot of sunshine, and not too much humidity, not going above 50%, let's say, This is going to be very fast. It's going to be a lot faster climate. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but it's going to be a faster climate condition, weather condition, I should say, than last year. If we shoot up to the 90s with huge humidity, that is not going to be faster. That's going to be slower. Yeah, believe it or not. Especially, remember, we're using a moving ball that's spinning. People seem to forget that. This is not a stationary ball through the air. It's a rotating ball. That has a lot to do with it. The felt, everything. But yeah, so so far, what I'm looking at here is conditions that are going to be quicker than last year, at least to start. And we'll see what happens from there. Now, if it were to get real cool, if it shoots down to the 60s at nighttime, no sun, 60s, and usually the humidity rises. That's part of the thing too. Where New York is located is near the Atlantic Ocean, and there's an ocean current that comes up from the Florida region, from the south, from the equator, and comes up, and in the summertime, that air mass is supposed to come and inundate the areas in the Northeast. But, sometimes there's a mass of air still coming from the Northwest, like it does in the winter. And when that happens, it's drier. Like right now, we're getting more Northwest air mass, probably. I don't know, I didn't check it, but it's probably coming a lot more from the Northwest than what you would usually get in August in New York. So that's what the thing is. So now, if this air masses switch again and go back to normal, and we start getting inundated by the Atlantic Ocean air mass, it's going to get a lot more humid and hot. So again, Northwest air mass is going to be cooler and drier. And that cooler and drier will actually be faster for tennis right now. And so this should be just a little bit faster climate for sure, and then we'll see what happens after the first couple days.